Brought to you by Penguin.
Winter's Fire by Giles Kristian. Read by Philip Stevens. The maidens of death came riding, to claim his battle-slain kin. But Sigurd was Odin-kissed, men said, and the fire burnt within. A boy no more, he killed a jarl, and fled with half a crew. So swore his vengeance on the king, as young men often do. Sigurd Haraldsson Saga. Chapter 1. The tracks were fresh, but the snow was old. Deep, too, so that it was impossible to know how many animals there were, for each was using the same tracks as the one in front. The trail they made through the pines was narrow and straight, or as straight as it could be in a forest. "Wolves waste no energy when they're on the move, not like dogs," Olaf had explained when they set out into the night with spears and bellies full of ale. "Aye, but a dog wouldn't waste a nice warm fire," Sven had said, shuddering at the sudden cold and pressing a thick finger against one nostril to expel a wad of smoke-blackened snot onto the snow. "So I am thinking that maybe dogs have more clever in them than wolves." He glanced back towards the hall as though already regretting his decision to go with Olaf and Sigurd. "More clever than us, too," he added, clearing his other nostril and pulling back the wool over his face, blinking smoke-stung eyes in the frigid air. They had wrapped their legs and hands with wool, too, and wore the same sheepskin or fur and leather hats that they had pulled onto their heads when the snows had come, and which they had rarely taken off, even inside Jarl Hakon Berna's old hall, for that place was huge, and there were never enough bodies inside to warm its edges, even with both hearths burning day and night. "Compared to wolves, dogs walk as if they are drunk," Olaf had gone on, cinching his cloak tight at his neck. "Tend to drag their toes as well, whereas wolves have a cleaner stride. Leave neater tracks, see?" He had been right about that, Sigurd thought now, as a shaft of moonglow arrowed through the trees, lighting the trail before them and threading the brittle mantle with silver, like wire inlay on a blade. The left and right paw prints were only slightly offset, and it was clear that the wolves were making much lighter work of it than Sigurd and his friends. Sigurd could see where the lead wolf's body had carved the track through the snow like a carvey's sleek bow through a heavy sea. By contrast, he and his companions laboured and puffed and sweated now despite the chill. For the pine canopy above had not prevented the snow settling deep in places, nor stopped the prevailing southwesterly wind piling it up in drifts against trunks, making it hard going. "Bollocks, but the lad's blowing like Vollen's own bellows," Olaf said a while later, pulling the woolen wrap below his chin and planting his spear butt in the snow as he and Sigurd turned to look at Sven, who had fallen behind. "The beasts'll smell his mead breath 5 rosts off, and we'll never catch a glimpse of them." Olaf had been Sigurd's father's closest friend, and now he treated them all as a man will who thinks his having a few more years on his back is the same as having twice as much sense. Perhaps it was, too. And yet Sigurd knew that Olaf would take a spear in the gut or an arrow in the throat for him. And where was the sense in that? Olaf would say he owed it to Sigurd's father, Harold. Hard to gainsay, for you could count the dead Jarl's still-breathing hearthmen on one hand these days. On 3 fingers, actually. Now, though, Olaf's own mead breath was clouding around his face, as though his beard were on fire, and Sigurd suspected his stopping to moan about Sven had more to do with Olaf catching his own wind than it had to do with their big friend. Sigurd found himself smiling. He was a long way off Olaf's age, and whilst he might have been clumsy compared to their prey, he nevertheless felt a wolf's stamina thrum in his blood, felt the beast's vigour in his flesh, and believed he could keep this pace.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?